button. So Facebook Live is up and running, so you can get on there and share that. For those of you tuning in on Facebook Live, thanks for joining us. And it says it's up and running, so that's all good. While we're doing this, we'll catch people up. We have been sitting here talking about stand-up comedy and music and where those two roads intersect, and that's kind of the catch-up from what we got going on here. I gotta mute this. Oh man, I've had that happen before because I forget that the microphone is on the table now, and so if my computer just turns on all of a sudden, people freak out. Absolutely freak out. So while you're doing that, I'm going to ask you some easy questions.
All right.
What's the name of the album that I was listening to? What's up, Robbie Holder? Good to see you, man.
I think it's going to be called Chasing Butterflies.
Chasing Butterflies.
Yeah, I think that's it. We're actually kind of in the process of doing artwork and all that right now. I'm trying to make sure I got this thing shared correctly.
Yeah.
And actually, the Chasing Butterflies. Were you around when Cowboy Johnson was around?
Yeah.
Cowboy? So I wrote that tune about Cowboy, actually. I had done a bunch of gigs with him over a couple of years and kind of listened to his stories and saved them up. And one day I was out at my Uncle Stevie's farm, and the song about Cowboy kind of just dropped out of the sky. It's all, I mean, as far as I know, everything, as long as everything he told me was true, it's a completely true story. But you never know.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, Cowboy Johnson. We'll have to go back and tag him.
We love Cowboy. Hopefully he's coming. Maybe in a week or so. He's gonna be back.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Good. I'm dragging him over here when he gets here.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Hope he makes it, yeah.
I can't wait. So I think everything is shared. I think all that's good.
So this is the camera right here?
Yeah, so that's who we're talking to.
Okay.
You can kind of see us.
Yeah, I don't need to see us. That's fine.
We'll just do that. So there we are. So thank you guys for joining us online. We appreciate having you here. Feel free to leave some comments. We'll try and get to those since it looks like there are a couple folks chiming in. We're happy to have you. Robbie and Karen, thanks for joining us. Love you guys. Since I see your faces and names right there. But in the meantime, we are going to close this and get this out of the way because I don't want to be distracted. I'll try and keep up with comments as they come through here. And Cowboy Johnson.
Yeah.
Man, so let's just take it back from there. That guy tells some wicked stories.
Oh, yeah.
And you had talked about playing a song. Do you want to
Sure, I could play
fire that one off?
I could play the Cowboy song.
And let's start there.
I think it'll be the title track on the new record.
Because I'd rather hear a tune than go back and rehash the conversation.
Yeah, sure. This is like I'm singing it from his perspective.
Okay.
So, and when I wrote it in a way that kind of he would write, even the way I'm singing it is kind of cowboy-esque. But I love Cowboy. This is one of my favorite songs on the record. It's got a great pedal steel solo. Anyway, so it goes like this. I was never one to follow, I was never one to fear. Keep good time to the beat of my own drum. I ain't allowed in Texas, I smoke cigarettes for breakfast. Feels like half my life's been on the run. Got knocked around, so I ran from town to town. I left home when I was just a kid. Everything I do and everything I've done goes right back to what my daddy did. Home is a memory, and I don't know where it ends or it begins. It's far, but still close to me. It's like chasing butterflies in the wind. Chasing butterflies in the wind. Well, I hitched a lot of rides, had my share of brides, put each one of them right back on the shelf. You see, I've been known to yell, fuss and fight and raise some hell. Came to find I'm better by myself. So I picked an old guitar, started singing at the bar, meeting ladies, making tips, still raising hell. shooting guns, starting fights, running drugs into the night, till I wound up on the inside of a cell. I said home, where I wanna be. No, I don't know where it ends or it begins. It's far, but still close to me. It's like chasing butterflies in the wind. Chasing butterflies in the wind. I quit drinking and shooting smack. I'm still known to roam from place to place. There's a restlessness, I guess. I'm uneasy, I confess. I slowed down when they lay me in my grave. I said home is a mystery. No, I don't know where it ends or it begins. It's far, but still close to me. It's like chasing butterflies in the wind. I said home. Now I don't know where it ends or it begins. It's far, but still close to me. It's like chasing butterflies in the wind. Chasing butterflies in the wind. Chasing butterflies in the wind, in the wind, in the wind.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thanks, man.
Man, the images that come to mind of remembering Cowboy and just seeing him doing all that stuff, it makes me wonder what people will think of that don't know Cowboy.
Yeah.
And how that comes across. But I love the tone that you captured. It's very him. It's very him.
It was a fun couple of years playing with him. That was the first time. The first time I actually played at the Floribama, he and Cook were playing, Cowboy and Cook in the Dome.
Yeah.
And I had met Cowboy at the Mothership in Orange Beach, like maybe the week before. Mm-hmm. So we saw him, and he's like, "Hey, come on up here." So I get up and I start playing with Cook, and he goes out to have a smoke on the beach. Yeah. An hour later, I'm still up there playing his game, smoking a J.
That's great. That's Cowboy, man.
Yeah, man. No, he's a cool cat. He's a very hard-on sleeve kind of guy. He's gonna tell you how he feels, and I love him for that. So yeah.
I thought you said hard-on sleeve. I was like, explain that.
Real hard on it.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, he does wear his heart on his sleeve. He's gonna tell you how he feels sometimes. One of the last times I played with him, we were playing at the Mothership. This was a few years ago. But I was leaving like the next day or something to go back to Illinois, so I was kind of stressed, and we were packing up the camper and all that stuff, and he could tell I was kind of flustered, and he said, "What's the matter?" I said, "I got to go back to the real world tomorrow or whatever." And he's like, "What, this isn't real enough for you?" And I could tell he was kind of in one of those moods. And we played a song. We didn't really do the sound check, and it turns out when we were playing, like what I was playing was cranked in his monitor, and I didn't know that. Yeah. So he was getting frustrated. And I was having this great moment musically, and I played this solo, and it was a really melodic thing. I don't even remember what tune we were playing. I was like, I felt really good about what I just played. I looked over at him. I didn't realize that it was like blaring in his face. He goes, "Will you turn the fuck down?" And that was one of the last gigs I played with Cowboy. But anyway, hopefully he comes back and we get to do some picking together and
good. Yeah. If he makes it into town, I'm definitely going to pin him down.
You should.
And make him tell some stories.
Yeah,
I know he's got a couple.
He's a character, man. Yeah.
Cowboy Johnson. You know an easy way to find his music and your music?
Yeah,
plug all this stuff real quick. Catch everybody up. If they want to listen to that again, tell them where to find it.
Well, there's like a video version. It's going to be on the new record that's coming out in October. So like it won't come out till like this fall. But there's YouTube versions of it and stuff. Chasing Butterflies in the Wind. Cowboy's got a Facebook page. I think it's I don't know if it's Cowboy Johnson. For a while it was C-Boy Live. I'm not sure what he's going under now, but he's back on internet, on Facebook and stuff, so I know that. And he's playing a handful of gigs out there in Northern California, so he's keeping himself busy. Yeah.
Good. Can't wait to see him again.
And for me, EdwardDavidAnderson.com is probably the place where you can hear a bunch of stuff. And
yeah. So, leading up to meeting Cowboy and getting into that moment where you broke an eardrum with your monitor, what are all the things that led up to that being such an awesome moment for you? Like, did you know about Cowboy before you met him at all?
No, we didn't. First of all, I didn't even know. For a significant part of my life, I didn't even know that this place existed. I didn't even know Alabama had beaches. We were the band that I was touring in. This is probably like, I don't know, maybe a dozen years ago or something like that. We had a gig, like in Tallahassee, and then we were going to like New Orleans, I think. I'm not exactly sure, but I remember we had a couple of days to kill, and the guy that was tour managing and driving suggested that we stop in Gulf Shores because he had a buddy that was living in a condo and still living actually in the exact same condo in the same spot. So we stayed with him for a couple of days, and he kind of took us around, and we, I don't think it was like warm out, but I remember being pretty impacted by just the scene and just the scenery and the scene. There was a lot of people writing, and like he took us to the Bahamas, years ago and stuff. Everywhere I went, I felt like somebody was playing music. Yeah. And of course you have the beach, man. You have the Gulf of Mexico. It's hypnotizing. It's absolutely astounding.
It is.
So I don't know, years passed. I think it was like maybe 6 years ago after my mom had passed away and my wife's mother had passed away. Like all in the same year, we had a really rough year, and we were kind of like looking to kind of the winters were getting brutal because we lost both our moms in the winter months, and they're already psychologically hard. And so we decided that she was gonna quit her job, and I was just gonna start a solo thing because that band had fizzled, and we were trying to figure out where we could go where it could be warm, where there was potentially work to play music and not have to be touring in the ice and snow, which I had done a lot of. And like when you're on the road in the winter in the Midwest, it can become very dangerous very quickly. And so the idea was kind of to get away from that. My wife actually had a car wreck on some ice up there. So anyway, I suggested that we come visit this place. So about like 6 years ago, we came down for like a week during the winter. Mm-hmm. And we stayed at the Best Western, which is exactly in Gulf Shores, which is right across the street from the place that I had stayed with my band at my buddy's place. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's his place. I hadn't kept up or whatever, so we ended up connecting with him and enjoying it, and she dug it, and he took us to the mothership. Mm-hmm. There's like Mel Knapp was playing out there, and I think maybe I met Cowboy. Or maybe it was I think when we came back the next year I met Cowboy, but Mel Knapp was out there the first night, and I loved Mel right off the get-go. We were friends, and then
for people who don't know what the mothership is, real quick, plug those guys.
Happy Harbor in Orange Beach. Yeah, we referred to it lovingly as the mothership. Now I think it's called Sassy Bass Caribbean Grill or something. Oh, yeah. I haven't actually been to the new.
Oh well, fuck them. I don't know who that is.
But the mothership's gone, man. It's gone. It only lasted a couple of years, and Henry was doing a lot of work over there at the time. Anyway, we met all of our friends pretty much when we returned to live in an RV for the whole winter. The first open Mel night, we met Cowboy and a bunch of other people that we ended up being becoming friends with that have been our friends for the last 5 years. So, that's kind of how it just kind of. And we started. Orange Beach was kind of our spot for the last 4 years, I guess. Pretty much, we hung out there, and now we're living on West Beach and Gulf Shores, and really digging that. We've settled right in at the Flying Harpoon. It's kind of become. I was enjoying beverages there last night, even. So, we're digging West Beach, and just really the whole getting to come down here for the winters is we're very lucky to get to do this. We don't take it for granted. We feel very fortunate to be able to ditch out on winter, and we know a lot of really cool people down here, and I play fun gigs, and so
that's great, man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
West Beach is an oddity in and of itself. Mm-hmm. It's one more level of the edge of the earth. In that it's a 2-lane road on the end of an island. There's no way off.
Yep.
Like it's a dead end.
It dead ends. Yep.
And the lagoon. That was a big deal for me when I was a kid because there was the crosswalk over there. You hang out down there much? I can see the lagoon from where I park my van and stuff, and then and from the balcony of the condo that we stay in, I can see the Gulf too. It's across the street, so we're like,
right in between the lagoon and the Gulf, and I can see both from where I live.
How close are you to the pass?
That's probably another couple of miles down.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're like basically 1 mile west of 59. So kind of behind Bob's and that little.
Oh yeah. Not too far down there.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things to do when I'm brave enough to drive through Alabama. Is to just drive down to West Beach and turn around and come back.
Yeah.
But
isn't it amazing? Like, I mean, we've kind of fallen into this thing. When you get down and you live on this island, you don't want to leave it. You don't even really want to go even a few miles out of your way.
Well, it's like the country. It's a whole other version of the country.
It's
because
just
what's the closest? The closest Walmart to where we're at right now is a 15-minute drive.
Yeah.
That's further than my parents' house, who live on a dirt road. Yeah. You know, like, it's the country.
It is. And there's something, it's magnetic. You just don't really, we always breathe this huge sigh of relief. Like, for the last few years, it's been coming across that bridge in Orange Beach, even though you have to pay like $3 a time to go in and out. Now we go across the 159 and Gulf Shores, but we give this kind of, when you get on the other side, it's like we're back on the island, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a very relaxing place to be, you know, like. We used to kind of laugh because the first year that we lived down here, we were up in Alberta in an RV park, and people were, you know, like, we were driving back and forth all the time, and just people would be like, you know, we don't want to go here or there because it's too far. We don't want to leave the island. And we're all, it's like, come on, you know, we're driving like 20 minutes each way to get back, and now we are those people who don't want to leave the island.
I don't want. It's so far away.
We've turned into those people.
Yeah. I think it's great living on the beach, though. I think it's the edge of an alien world. And,
it's amazing when you think about all the life that's out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfathomable.
Yeah.
I know everybody just drives by it and doesn't really think twice about it, I don't think, but I'm one of those weird people that's, like, thinking about what's under there.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's
that's a world I can't exist
in. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much life. It's just, like, my wife was fishing the other day, and she pulled up 4 big fish from under the bridge, like, within, like, minutes.
Nice.
And it's like, how much shit is down there? I mean, it's unbelievable how much. I mean, obviously you don't catch them like that all the time, but when you think about, like, just how much life is underneath the surface of that water, be it plant or fish or whatever, it's unfathomable, really.
And we just yank it out and gnaw on it.
Yeah. Oh, and it was tasty. She caught a redfish and a black drum and a couple of sheep's head, and all of which were really, really good.
Yummy.
Yeah.
Does Cook come down there and fish with you all the time?
You know, we don't fish down there. Like, we usually go, like, and she's more of a fish. I catch songs and she catches fish. Actually, I'll play you a song about that here in a minute. But, like, she's more the fisher person than I am. Yeah. She'll go out on the boat, and a friend of ours works over at Freedom, so sometimes he can take us out and stuff, and so we're usually fishing from boat.
Okay.
We don't really fish from the land very often.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it seems like lately they've just been going right under that bridge right there and they'll just kind of sit right there and just kind of try to cherry pick.
Nice.
Cook's he's the fish whisperer, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
He is. Anytime fishing comes up, I immediately think of Cook because he's the fishing report guy. Mm-hmm. If I could get him to be somewhere on a regular basis, then I would force him to do a fishing segment because I know it'd be hilarious.
Oh yeah, man.
But just keeping up with him, man. His brain moves faster than mine does. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, Cook's a good dude, man. Yeah, man. I met him, like I said, pretty early on down here as well, and played a ton of music with John. Yeah, he's a good dude, and you know, quite the fisherman from what I'm told.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, he is. Hey, I love it when he comes over here and hangs out. He comes over here all the time, which is awesome. He's always good company. He and I always bug him about Fukushima. You know, because he keeps up with what's going on because of all the fish in the Pacific Ocean are now irradiated.
Oh, okay.
And so he knows all kinds of stuff about Fukushima. And
he's a very smart dude. Let's see if I can remember this tune. She'll catch fish and I'll catch song. A friend of mine, we were hanging out, and she was showing us a wedding picture that had probably 100 people in it, and she said, "You can't see me, but I know where I am," and I was like, that sounds like a song. Mm-hmm. So this has nothing to do with that, but that line came from a friend of mine. You can't see me, but I know where I am. You can't see me, but I know where I am. You can't be me and stand right where I stand. You won't know me until you take my hand. You can't see me, but I know where I am. can't hear me, but I sing good and loud. Writing down my thoughts, trying to make my mama proud. You don't know me, I'm a face out in the crowd. You can't hear me, but I sing good and loud. Flying low to the ground, driving south, Bama bound. Gonna go drink some beer and disappear. She'll catch fish and I'll catch songs. When I screw up, she'll right my wrong. Let's all raise a glass and yell out cheers. You can't feel me, someday you just might. Walk inside my shoes and understand my plight. Till the day comes, I'll keep fighting the good fight. You can't feel me, someday you just might. Alright. Flying low to the ground, driving south, Bama bound. Gonna go drink some beer and disappear. She'll catch fish and I'll catch songs. When I screw up, she'll right my wrongs. Let's all raise a glass and yell out cheers. You can't see me, but I know where I am. You can't beat me and stand right where I stand. You won't know me until you take my hand. You can't see me, but I know where I am. I said, you can't see me, but I know where I am. I said, you can't see me, but I know where I am.
I do that every once in a while because the camera needs me to. It just has to be reset.
Sure,
doesn't mean anything.
Whatever it takes, my brother. You're running the show.
My friend freaked out last night. He's like, "Are we done?" I'm like, "No, not anything." That's awesome. You can't see me, but I know where I am. That song speaks to me a lot because of it touches on for me what it means to know that we're ourselves, but also know that sometimes we only exist in the minds of other people,
sure,
you know, and the way we're perceived,
yeah,
which is really cool.
Yeah, I think definitely in this business too, it's a weird one. It gets you kind of thinking about, yeah, you can feel invisible, but I think as long as you can hang on to what you're doing for in the first place, then it makes everything okay.
Yeah,
you know, so
yeah,
it's a weird, it's a strange way to make a living. You know, it always has been. Mm-hmm. I've never had any other job in my adult life but to write songs and drive around and play them and make records. So it's very strange.
So how much of that did you write sitting while she was fishing? Back to the fishing thing.
I think it was the same night that I heard my friend say, "You can't see me, but I know where I am." I said something about how she catches fish and I catch songs because I got on a little roll where I wrote like a half dozen tunes in a few days or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that was just one of them, like, short, I think I was writing a different song when she was out fishing, and then the other one came, like, a couple days later or something, but it's, songwriting's weird because I had gone, like, months without anything, and then I just wrote a ton in, like, a couple days, but it was good. I mean, I think I'm at my happiest when I'm coming up with stuff.
That's awesome.
Feel good when I'm feeling creative. I think a lot of it was I read this book on Guy. Did you ever listen to Guy Clark at all?
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, Guy Clark was a Texas guy. Actually, he lived in Nashville most of his life, but he was born and raised in Texas. He ran with Townes Van Zandt and Mickey Newberry and some of those guys.
That's probably where I've heard the name before.
Yeah, Guy, and actually, and I'll play another song for you. But anyway, where I reference Guy and Townes and Mickey and Susanna, Guy's wife at the time. Anyway, so yeah, Guy Clark was this kind of larger than life character who wrote brilliant songs they're not really country, they're not folk. He didn't really have like a category. I mean, when Americana was invented, in Nashville, they said that we're going to do this new kind of music and it's Americana and it encompasses this. He was the king of that. Because you couldn't really slap a label on the guy, and he refused to compromise even slightly. He just did it his way, Like a great story about like him, and this is all come from this book. The book's called "Without Getting Killed or Caught," which is like has this tune called "L.A. Freeway." If I could just get off this L.A. freeway without getting killed or caught. That was the one line that he went to Nashville with. But anyway, he was just this really interesting cat, and kind of maybe a little bit surly in his older years. Definitely someone that partied, never really stopped. He was still a guy that was up until 5 or 6 fishing for songs. He felt like the best stuff would reveal itself the later you stayed up and stuff. Anyway, this great story about it later in his career is kind of having a reemergence, and he was introduced in this hotel in like some fancy restaurant to all these radio guys, guys that own radio stations, and their wives. Mm-hmm. And they were having some sort of meeting because they were going to embrace this new release by Guy, and he comes down and the guy, his manager or whatever, is like, "I'd like to introduce to you Guy Clark." And he goes around, he's a Texas gentleman, shakes everybody's hands, "Nice to meet you all." He sits down. He was a notorious cigarette smoker. He smoked all the time. He would smoke on stage even when it said no smoking, called it a prop. He used the prop clause all the time, Anyway, he sits down, and he takes out a cig, and he goes to light it up, and he goes, "You guys mind if I smoke? Or y'all mind if I smoke?" And one of the radio exec's wives was like, "Actually," and before she even said it, he goes, "Well then fuck y'all." And he gets up and walks and he sits at at a table across the restaurant and just sits by himself and doesn't talk to him. And these are people that are supposed to help him, in this kind of resurgence. But he was just an interesting man who refused to compromise. I don't think that it ever was even entered his mind. He was just himself. He was also a guitar builder, and I didn't really know that much about that. But and the reason I reference Mickey Newbury in this song is because he had built Mickey Newbury a guitar, and he didn't do a very good job, and the top of it collapsed. He made it too thin. Guitar building's a science, man. It's like there's so much tension, the strings, and to be able to, the way the bracing works on the inside, and to be able to hold that kind of tension, if you build a top too thin, you can have that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So he talks about how he would build guitars and how basically under the same specs, and that one would sing amazing and play amazing, and then the other one, which he thought he built identical, was the redheaded stepchild that didn't play well and didn't resonate, and he didn't really understand that, so he sent these two guitars that were basically identical specs to a renowned luthier, guitar builder, and said, "What gives? Why does this one sound amazing, and what is it like? Is it did I measure something differently? What can you go through these guitars with a fine-tooth comb and tell me why one plays better than the other?" Mm-hmm. And he gets back to him and says, "It ain't in the numbers. Sometimes you get lucky." And I was like, "Well, that's a song right there." So that's what this is about. Guy Clark building guitars. It's called Guy Built Guitars. I've never played it in front of anybody, so you're my guinea pig here.
Debut. I like it.
Sometimes you get lucky was a line in his book, and it jumped out and struck me. See, Guy built guitars, each one unique, assembled with patience, with soul and technique. He said some will sing loud and more clear than others. Some for some reason come from red-headed mothers. Mickey sat wrecked on a shelf in his shop, a bloody thumbprint and a thin broken top. The mysterious part is choosing the wood. He said with a grin, as only Guy could. Never for sale, he built them for friends. Sweetest the sound comes from old number 10. Hey. each tool was sharpened, the work never done. His favorite was a draw knife, he showed Towns his son. Quietly carving, his presence was big. He'd work till he'd tired, then he'd roll up a cig. And talk of the times he and Towns would raise hell. Susanna was young, still feeling well. Guy built guitars, each one unique, assembled with patience, with soul and technique. Guy built guitars, each one unique. Guy built guitars, Guy built guitars. Guy built guitars.
That's a great tune.
Thanks, man.
That's a really great tune.
You should check that. You should check out his writing. Yeah,
I bet I'm familiar with it. I can't imagine it's eluded me for
the first. I mean, go right back to that first record, and you can hear that L.A. Freeway song "Without Getting Killed or Cut." That's a good place to start with Guy.
Gosh,
I mean, they're all great. He was a poet, man. Yeah.
It makes me think about what goes into that one. A guitar is unique in that it's wood compared to all instruments.
Yeah.
I can't say all instruments, but what does it mean that something's alive and then it becomes a vessel? In that way.
Sure.
And how does that impact the playability of a guitar? You ever think about stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird when you think about it. This was, I think that this neck is made of Honduran rosewood. So this was like a tree in Honduras somewhere. Yeah, I mean, there's Hawaiian wood on this guitar. A friend of mine built this guitar for me. It's weird, and it's strange that it can give life to these ideas. And I was riding over here thinking about, like, well, what are we going to talk? What am I going to talk? I don't know what we're going to talk about for. I was just thinking, just play some songs, And then I was thinking, like, all right, well, I got all these new songs and play some songs. And then I started thinking, it's kind of cool, like, this stuff that I wrote down like just a couple weeks ago didn't exist in this universe, and it does. I mean, mainly in my head because I haven't really recorded any of it. But like, I'm coming over here and it's like I got a head full of tunes, and this thing, which was once alive, was the vessel for these things to actually come to life. Mm-hmm. It's weird. Yeah, I do think about weird stuff like that. Probably more than I need to.
Well, I'll take it. This is how weird I am, or a step further in weirdness, is that if everything is mostly empty space, and vibration is the root of all the stuff that's not just empty space, then maybe that's the reason that one odd guitar, or that one guitar plays oddly.
Yeah.
Because something in the vibration of that thing when it was alive...
Sure.
Doesn't want to play nice with the vibration you're asking it to be now.
Well, and like you said, it ain't in the numbers. Sometimes you get lucky, and I mean, you could build two completely to identical specs, and for maybe those kinds of reasons that you're talking about, like for whatever that reason is. But like, it's strange to think why that happens.
The magic's in picking the wood.
Yeah, and that's what he talked about in the book. He actually says the mysterious part is choosing the wood.
Yeah.
In the book, it was interesting when I read this passage, everything from like what his favorite tool was, how he taught Townes Van Zant's son how to build guitars, to how he'd work until he would get tired and then he would roll up a cigarette. He telling tales about Townes and his wife. And his wife, later in her life, after Townes passed away, part of her kind of died when Townes died, and so the latter part of her life wasn't really as rewarding. I think that she kind of she never really recovered from the death of Townes. So like I think I tried to paint this picture of him telling stories of the good old days, down in his workshop, which is in his basement, where there is a wrecked guitar that was once making Newberry's that he built for him that's sitting, it's like on a shelf, like kind of like an exhibit almost. It's how they describe it.
It's a piece of history.
And so I just started writing down little ideas about like the idea of him building guitars. I didn't really know that much about it, and it just kind of fell out of the sky. That's the good stuff, man. That's fun when songs kind of just fall out of the sky.
Mm-hmm. Well, the way you talk about writing songs, I think about writing jokes now, which I've struggled to write things in the past. I've written academic essays and shit like that.
Yeah, totally.
But writing a joke or telling a story is a similar thing to writing a song.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree.
It's something I'm learning how to do, but I guess I've known how to tell stories for a long time, but there's something about the practice and the repetition of getting it out. So when you're telling a story, like when you're telling the story about God building guitars, I only have to write words. So how do you balance, and I know everybody has their own way, but how do you balance the music and the story? Because in a way, those are two storylines, separate storylines in and of themselves.
I think that you can tell when the music that you're playing goes with the words. At least I can. I mean, I feel like I can tell. Like when I was writing this one, it didn't start in 3. Like the music that I had was in 4. Like it ended up in like a waltz, like a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. It wasn't in the beginning. It was more of a straight 4/4 kind of thing. And as I kind of kept going with it, it felt like it needed to be in like a waltz, almost like an old-timey kind of thing, almost like a like an old sea shanty or something. Is how I'm hearing it if I ever record it. Like these parts, I'm hearing like a fiddle, like playing, dancing around with some sort of a recurring melody. But I think that for that one, it was more trying to think about like what would Guy do. Like I'm writing a song about this guy, I'm about him, like kind of like when I wrote that song about Cowboy, I was kind of playing with the idea of him in my mind, like, and usually you can kind of tell when something's working with words, and if it's not, you can tell too, and then you go elsewhere. And it's like, for me, it's like I always kind of thought about it like a puzzle. When Guy Clark wrote songs, he actually wrote it out, printed everything impeccably on graph paper, and he would use an X-Acto knife and like move verses around and work. I mean, he was like a craftsman, not only, and they called him a craftsman, although he kind of was insulted. He thought that making guitars and making songs were two different parts of the brain, and not to mix them up. Call him like the craftsman of song was like a different kind of. But he would actually really, really focus on details. And that's something that I try to do too. Is like if the word doesn't need to be there, like I'll literally just like think for a long time, sometimes days, on like should that word be there or not? Is it better? Is it cluttering things up or is it adding to the? Mm-hmm. He was very much like that, and actually like studying him and guys like him and Prine and stuff, I think have made me more like trying to trim the fat, if you will.
Yeah. Well, that's something that ties into what I know now about trying to make things simple and cutting the fat. The term economy of words has come up a lot. But that gets
jokes, it's huge too, man.
Yeah, like you were saying earlier about Carlin, to tie back all the way into that.
The master.
The Philosopher King, as I like to call him. Whoever the reigning Philosopher King happens to be. It's interesting how it requires an economy of words to convey a certain thing. But it also, the words mean so little, and the tone means so much more.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you balance the tone of the linguistic phrase you're trying to get out with the tone of the melody? Do they always go together, or how do you play with that? I'm sure there are many possibilities for all of these, but...
I mean,
do you even think about stuff like that?
No, I don't really. It's not like, it's more just like I make up something and it sounds good with guitar.
Yeah, there you go.
From very simple, and that's really, it's not. I'm not really getting too. I feel like if it's feeling good, then I'm doing something right. If it's a struggle, then I probably should abandon or try to approach it from a different. Because I don't know. I mean, and maybe that's wrong. I'm sure there are all kinds of people that have written songs that were a struggle that ended up being great songs. I'll I usually will take that as a sign to me, like, if this is too hard, if you're trying too hard to do this, if it's being this difficult, then it's probably you're not going about it right.
Right.
And so then I'll either, jump ship and abandon it, or I'll try to go from a different angle, like, okay, you played it in a different time signature or a different key, or there's no real science to it. It's like I said, I always kind of thought about it like a puzzle, like trying to fill in the spots. And
my puzzle right now is timing.
Yeah,
so.
That's tough. I have buddies that, like one of my really good friends up north, his name is Chicago Farmer, and he's been down here, and we've played some gigs down here together. We've toured all over the place together, but he's I would argue that a good bit of his set could be construed as stand-up comedy.
Yeah,
I mean he's got bits. Uh-huh. Like and they work in sometimes they work in the middle of songs where he'll just break it down and tell a story in the middle of a song, keep the chords going, but then go off on a diatribe. And his timing is like, and it's not easy, man. Like, and I think if you can do both, like Todd Snyder's a great example. I don't know if you know Todd's work. Todd's like,
I don't think so.
Brilliant storyteller and just damn funny. He's just funny. He's the kind of guy you would just love to have a beer with and just he's just hilarious. And Cody's Chicago Farmer is similar in that regard. I mean, other great storytellers like Prine is a great storyteller. Guy Clark, funny storyteller. I think there's an art form in that. I certainly haven't figured it out. I'm much better at doing this than I am at getting laughs. But God, if you can do both in music, that's a pretty potent recipe. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're a really good writer and you have the ability to work a crowd and your timing is good with storytelling, like, yeah,
that's a hard.
That's a beautiful thing, man. Yeah, timing's everything. And clearly, if you don't have a guitar and you're up there by yourself and you're doing just straight up comedy, then you really you don't have this to hide behind. Like, you gotta have timing. It's.
Well, like I was telling you,
I gotta come check out one of your sets.
Please do.
Yeah, man.
Please do.
When's the next Compton show?
I'll be at Shooters at Cordova Lanes tonight. It's in Pensacola by Cordova Mall. Cordova Lanes. It's a bit of a drive from here, but it's an open mic. It's a late night thing. There are usually only a handful of us, so it would be awesome if you and all my music friends made Thursday nights fucking.
My wife and I will come out to one of these at some point. We're here until the end of February, so I've got like another 6 weeks or something, or 7 or 6. Maybe 5 now. I don't know. It goes by so fast.
Well, while you bring it up, I'll plug them for you real quick. The Back Porch Comedy open mic. That's on Tuesdays at the Back Porch in Pensacola. Mm-hmm. Blind Mule on Wednesdays in Mobile. And every Friday night. These are the shows to come to. These are shows. There's the Back Porch Showcase, which is either out-of-town people or showcase of local comics. This week, my buddy's doing kind of a mashup between his talk show and the Back Porch Comedy Showcase, so it's going to be experimental, tons of good times.
Sure.
And then after that, my buddy Ryan Pfeiffer, who I just did a podcast with recently, does the Rated R Comedy Show, late night. So that's every Friday night. Okay. Starts at 9 for the showcase, at 11 for the one after it. I've been on the showcase once, and look forward to being back on it if I ever get invited to do it again. I didn't suck too bad, so I think I'll get invited back eventually. But I'm always on the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we're trying to book more shows all over the place. But you'll have to come check it out.
No, we definitely will. And actually, while I'm thinking about this, while you're plugging your shows, I'm going to plug mine because I have a show this Saturday on the 20th at the Fairhope Brewery up in Fairhope. It's their 5th anniversary party.
Cool.
I hit at 2 p.m. And then on the 26th of this month, I'm at the Soul Kitchen in Mobile with Grayson Caps. And then on the 27th, I'm in Gulf Shores at the Big Beach Brewing Company.
Yeah.
And then on the 2nd and 3rd, I'm out in Pensacola Beach at Paradise Inn, which is a great, awesome, old school Florida.
Yeah. Paradise Inn. That's a good place.
Classic. Yeah.
Very, very cool.
So, I got a bunch of stuff coming up too. Everybody come check that.
That's awesome. Yeah. I want you to come to a comedy open mic.
I'll be there
and try and tell stories.
Oh, I don't know if I could do that. I'll come and observe, man.
Right, I promise I won't put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's the hard stuff, man. I'm definitely relying on my instrument and telling stories more through song than just. It's a lot easier for me to do it like that.
Yeah.
Than to. Yeah.
I just know it because I've had some crash and burn moments on mic. I've been doing this for 20-something years. Like, where you're like, what am I like? I'm talking myself like into a black hole right now, and I need to stop and play a song because this isn't working. Like it's a whole other deal.
So fun.
Yeah.
It's so. I like standing in that awkwardness. I mean, I'm new to this, so
sure. All right. Well, that's probably a good thing.
Well, I don't. It's not what I'm setting out to do, but I know enough about comedy and public speaking to know that to get up there and freak out about it doesn't do any good. Yeah. And so I look at it as an experiment.
Sure.
And it's got to be interesting on some level. So I try not to freak out about it. But
you can't. You have to be calm.
Yeah.
And it's just like the more relaxed and yourself that you can be in those weird situations, in sometimes those nerve-wracking situations. I'm just talking from like a stage perspective where it's like some huge gig or somebody's there that anything. The more you can just be yourself, clearly this because you've been doing it. Obviously, the more comfortable you can be, the easier. I think the more you'll set other people at ease. Like, it was funny, you were talking about how it was kind of cold up in that place, and everybody's kind of sitting there all tightened up, and it's like, I mean, if you can sense that from the comic, then that's coming straight out to the audience, and they're going to start to tighten up. So I think that the more, like, you clearly it sounds like you got a pretty good handle on it,
Well, I haven't figured out how to get out of it yet. Yeah. It doesn't bug me to be there, but I'm learning how to get out of that.
Well, that's the way you're going to learn, is if it's not bugging you to be there, which, I mean, a lot of people, that's just the first thing right out of the gate. Like, this is too weird, this is too nerve-wracking, I don't want to do this. Yeah. The fact that you're okay with that means it's going to allow you now to learn. And the more that you do it, obviously, the better that you're going to get. You're going to see other people that'll kick your ass, and you'll be like, holy shit, I'm really influenced by that. Like, oh, now I want to go home and write this because that dude just was like out of the box. That was awesome, or something. Or this woman like blew my mind tonight, and now I needed. So you'll get that kind of stuff too. The more you can be around it, like the better you'll get, and the fact that you can take a beating, that's good. That means you'll keep coming back, and that's how you grow. So that's cool, man. That's I have to say that as soon as I saw that you were doing that, I was interested just right out of the gate. I was like, huh.
I'll play you I've got them all recorded. Yeah. I'll play the show last night just to tell backstory. We had talked about before we got on before we turned on the microphones. The last night at an open mic, the Blind Mule over in Mobile, I ate it. Oh, I was horrible. And it was a cold night, and it was kind of an awkward night. Not a real big crowd. And I couldn't figure out how to turn it around, and so we were observing all of the things that were going on to try and just analyze the situation and learn from it, and so that's what we're talking about, is me eating it at an open mic, which
everybody's done it.
It happens.
I've taken some dives at some open mics, early in my.
Well, I've heard stories from a comedy standpoint. Ari Shaffir, I don't know if you know who that is, but he is a well-established philosopher king in and of himself. He's on the top right now in a lot of people's eyes. And he said that he got on stage one time and turned his recorder on and just stood there his whole 3 minutes and stared at the audience and felt them staring at him.
Supposedly Frank Zappa did that.
Really?
It was like 15 minutes or something of silence. I think it was in Peoria, Illinois, like pretty close to where I might be wrong on this, but
tell me what you remember.
Supposedly it was like, and I wasn't there, but like supposedly he sat there for like 15 or 20 minutes. I think he might even pull up a stool. People were like, booing and this and that, people just leaving, and eventually after a bunch of people left, he goes, now that those people are gone, or like, I'll play to the people who really wanted to hear me, or something like that.
Nice.
One of his Jedi mind tricks. Zappa, he was a genius. Like he was. Do you know much about Frank Zappa?
No. Fill me in.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've heard the music, but
I mean, he was. He knew how to get reactions. And he was always looking for a reaction, and he was out there, man, but like absolutely brilliant, like. Not only musically, but the way his mind worked. He was a very, very intelligent man, and strange and avant-garde. And everybody thought that he was like this, weird drug. He didn't use drugs. He kind of found it repulsive, actually. And nobody in his band was allowed to drink or use drugs. Mm-hmm. And everything was so progressive and tight. But yeah, supposedly he pulled that bit where he sat on a stool for like 15 or 20 minutes while people were like waiting for the show to start.
Yeah, we're like, what are we doing?
Staring down the audience.
Yeah.
Until enough people left that he was like, well, now that those people are gone, I'll give the people that really care, like, yeah.
That's great, man.
Yeah, I would never have the ability to sit there and feel that discomfort.
I've actually seen, and I may have seen Cowboy do this. I've seen people do it at the beginning of songwriter sets where they'll play, they'll play like an F sharp, and just kind of let it ring out. And I think I saw Cowboy doing that.
He's out there too, man.
On stage, just going ping.
I remember he
settle in.
He would say stuff like after songs, if there wasn't enough of a response, he would say stuff like "Clap, you sons of bitches."
I love Cowboy.
I remember him pulling that. He came up and played a handful of shows with me up in Illinois, and he pulled that at a house concert. A nice seated show. It was sold out. There was a room full of people, and it was a really good response, but it wasn't up to par, evidently. He's like, "Clap, you sons of bitches." To my friends, it was hilarious. Oh, man.
Cowboy Johnson talking about "clap, you sons of bitches." That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So 2 button presses. That means we're nearly an hour in, man.
Yeah, maybe I should just
blown by.
Yeah, I was going to play you this one last tune. And
do you have to go? We don't have to cut this off.
No, I don't have to. But I mean, at some point, people are going to get bored listening to us sit around and bullshit.
Oh, that's okay. Most of this, there's still 9 people watching us right now, so we can't. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We greatly appreciate it. And
muchas gracias.
Yeah, and please share.
Indeed.
We don't have time limits anymore. Like I keep working to figure out ways to expand what's possible.
Yeah.
And so we've got long battery life on the camera. The only thing we're limited by is the 2 hours and 20-minute record capacity on the SD card for the camera.
Sure.
So that 2 hours and 20 minutes. That's the only mark we got.
That's really long.
I could sit here and pick apart songs, and I was even going to ask you about, I write bits and I'll write something down and go, that's definitely not fucking funny, and I'll toss it.
Sure.
Do you ever
Maybe don't toss it.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, because you might come back to it at some point. It might see it in a different light. Well, I mean, just like anything, like the more, like, if any idea is a good idea, just write everything down, and I would keep it all.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's not working, like, for me, like, I'll say, like, I abandoned a tune, I just went through, like, a folder on the computer the other day, and it was, like, something like 30 songs or something like that, and most of them were never released on anything, or never really even came to, maybe weren't finished, or this or that. It was, like, mind-blowing. I was like, there's some really good stuff in here that I could harvest that could be used, And
they're like full songs?
Some of them are. Some of them are bits and pieces. Some of them are full songs and stuff that I just, for whatever reason, didn't feel like it was cutting the mustard or something. But
I gotta start saying shit.
Yeah, I mean, I would, like, everything that you've got, like, keep it. Man, do you know who Will Kimbrough is? He's
that name sounds great.
Great writer and a phenomenal instrumentalist, and he played guitar on the Lower Alabama record that I did with Anthony Crawford.
Okay.
Sugar Cane.
Yeah.
And Savannah sings it. Anyway, Will, I was playing at Callahan's with him a couple years ago in Mobile, and I opened up, and I was just kind of watching him. He had a notebook with him, and he was like, I watched him multiple times throughout the night jot stuff down. He was literally, if you have an idea about a line or something, he's seasoned enough to know that stuff will be gone if you don't get it down. And I'm sure not all of it's usable, but I mean, you're still using that part of your brain. It's like, even if you think it's not funny, I mean, I would hang on to it, and maybe part of it is, or you see something in a different light later, and you can use it or something, like. So, like, and that's the same when I'm, like, in the studio. If I'm helping a band make a record, or a writer make a record I'm producing, or if I'm doing it myself, there are no bad ideas. Like, everything's worth trying.
Yeah. So,
like, we'll always, like, if somebody has an idea to try something in a completely different feel, like, we'll try it, and sometimes it works, and if it doesn't, that's fine, but at least it gets a try. Mm-hmm. And so I'm always about, like, ideas. Like, the more stuff you can jot down, and even if you think maybe it's not that great, like, sometimes our perspectives change, and like I said, some of those songs that I heard in that folder that never became anything, I was like, wow, like, there's some really good songs. I could just do, like, a record of just those songs, and these are songs that were written years ago, some of them like 15 years ago, so I don't know what changed in my mind to make me think that they were worthy now, wherever from back then they weren't. I don't know. I mean, maybe your perspective changes, and I think we're constantly evolving as humans. So like I would say like hang on to everything. Don't throw anything away. That's my advice. Speaking of which, I was talking about this song, and Kimbrough writing stuff down. When I was on a roll a couple weeks ago, I was thinking about, and today obviously we have a north wind because it's been cold, and living across the street from the Gulf of Mexico, and you know this now because you live here. If the south wind's blowing, it's heaven. It's great. You can see the smell of it, like the sound of you can hear the waves a lot louder when the wind's blowing them. That sound, reverberation towards you. Like I said, the sight, the smell of it, just the sound of it, it's like a whole different ballgame from a north wind, which just brings cold and darkness, which we're getting right now.
Yeah.
And if anybody's from Illinois that's listening to this, they're probably just shaking their head and rolling their eyes right now because they're the ones that are really freezing up there. I think it's single digits right now. But anyway, I had this line, and I said it out on the beach. I think it was like on Christmas Day. We were out there, and there's a south wind blowing, and it's bringing the sweet smell of the sea to me. And as soon as I got back, I jotted it down. That's the Will Kimbrough thing. You come up with a line, you have to or it'll be gone. I can't tell you how many. I'm sure you've had jokes that you'll never find again, or maybe they will reveal themselves. So I wrote it down, and then this song kind of, and we'll close with this. The song, I think you can relate to as you live right across the street from the beach. It's an amazing thing to be able to see the Gulf of Mexico on a daily basis. I've seen the Gulf of Mexico every day for the last month and a half, and there's something very therapeutic about it. And so with this tune, I kind of tried to create this kind of scene of what you see when you go out there, the sun's setting and the moon's actually rising. You can see both at the same time, and there's usually somebody fishing out there that I'll strike up a conversation with, and there's pelicans, and so this one's called South Wind, and then we'll do this and bid you good night.
South wind a-blowing, it's bringing the sweet smell of the sea to me. I can hear waves crashing, soon we'll be dashing across the street. Yeah, the sun's dipping low and the moon's on the rise. Reflections aglow, look like fire in your eyes. There's an old guy a-fishing, he's casting his line out in the sea by me. Says I ain't catching nothing but a good time, and baby, that's fine by me. Says he worked half his life delivering mail. Now he plays golf, fishes, and sails. There's a pelican a-diving, hunting and surviving. It's a sight to see. Like a crazed kamikaze, her Sabbath with Ozzy in the late 60s. Well, it hits the water like a well-oiled machine. It never comes up empty, not that I ever seen. There's a south wind blowing, it's bringing the sweet smell of the sea to me. There's a south wind a-blowing, it's bringing the sweet smell of the sea to me. There's a south wind a-blowing, it's bringing the sweet smell of the sea to me.
there's a north wind blowing. It's cold.
But today we're going to use our imaginations,
Exactly.
and it'll be all right.
Soon enough.
So, you got a story behind that one that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, it was just beach. You know, like that's. I'm like I said, I feel very fortunate to have that access to that, and it's right across the street. And I mean, if it's the weather's, decent, as long as it's not raining or just absolutely freezing, I'm out there, on a daily basis, and I try to not take it for granted. I would never want to live that close to that body of water and not appreciate it, and and take it for granted. I mean, I know that people, when you live down here year round, it's probably just, I don't know, maybe it becomes old hat, but like, I'm still kind of a kid in the candy store when it comes to the water and being near it and in this environment, really. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I appreciate you having me, too, man. Thanks for
thank you
including
so
me
much
in
for
your-
being here.
in your podcast,
You're
brother.
very welcome. Thank you
Cheers.
for being here. We'll promise you'll come back and do it again.
Of course, man.
Hell yeah. In that case, we will leave it there. Ladles and Jelly Spoons, Facebook, YouTube. Everybody, thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.